the connections among staff model. These are the issues that came out of that. You can see the various relationships about how things increase or decrease things. Just one example of, again, a sort of within model validation. We see 35% of the people categorically disagreed with that relationship. 35 more ultimately gave it a relationship weight of less than 0.05. So really only 30% of the people thought this relationship even existed. That's very informative to us, and we can drill down into that and say, well, in our interviews people said this was true. Why doesn't the population think it's true? Let's look at some of the edge weights. Again, this is just picking one particular node. And the point I want to make here is that we've got the ability to see subcultures within a population of edge weights. So you can see kind of a bimodal distribution here, and it turned out 2 departments accounted for that whole middle chunk. That 2 departments said that there's only a moderate relationship between lack of connection among staff and knowledge sharing, and the rest of the people surveyed thought, oh, that's really, really important. And that was informative, and that spurs some follow-up for management, for decision makers to look at what's going on with that culture and what can we do about it. And then lastly, just the visualization piece. So we put together 4 scenarios, sort of a 2x2 design of manipulating the no nearby space to put new hires and the lack of organizational communication, high and low for both of them. And you can see these negatively skewed outcomes that for the most part people don't think that these have a huge effect on what's going on, but you can see like the worst case scenario, if we have no nearby space to put new hires and there's a lack of organizational communication, there's a more negative effect on our outcome of knowledge sharing than in the other scenarios. So again, there's our red line, that threshold, and so we can look at, well, what distinguishes people who thought there was an effect from those who thought there wasn't an effect, and that 0.03 is kind of an arbitrary threshold, but we can then see the tree for this. This is like the tree from before, and so we can see, all right, what it comes down to is the most important thing here is the lack of connection among staff. Oh, my arrows turned into boxes. The lack of connection among staff affecting knowledge sharing. Folks who thought the weight for that relationship was below 0.3 thought there was no impact about knowledge sharing. All those outcomes are above the line. But if they thought that there's a stronger relationship than 0.3, then it comes down to that shared understanding of organizational priorities and the extent to which that affects lack of connection among staff. And if they thought there was really no effect there, 0.07, again, above the line. It's the people who thought the first thing, their lack of connection to knowledge sharing was high, shared understanding of organization priorities was at least existent, that accounted for all the outcomes below the line. So that gives us very, very useful information about the population of experts and their beliefs, and then what we can do to inform the outcomes of, say, these hypothetical scenarios or choices that we could make. So management got some good stuff out of it. Just the causal models alone provide why and how. You can stop there. We get from the crowdsourcing, we get the beliefs from the community, which is also informative, and then we can do that what-if analysis quickly and iteratively to see, well, what are the actual impacts of this? Because you look at that model, that's no use. You can't really look at that model and say, oh, you know what would happen if we did such and such. The computer can help us illustrate what would happen across those variations. Some of the problems we found was the wording of the nodes is really important, and we ran into sort of some double negative issues. So if the concept we got